Good evening. Welcome to Stab the Dragon Productions for episode number 172. This is a whiskey review plus we're going to talk about National Bourbon Day. Today is Friday, June 14th, 2024, National Bourbon Day. In May of 1964, Congress passed and President Johnson signed into law 78 Stat 1208, declaring bourbon is the official distinctive American drink. Now, this statute made it illegal for any country to label their whiskey as bourbon. Now, technically what that means is we would not import anything from another country that had, described their drink as bourbon. So, if maybe Guatemala wants to produce something that they call Guatemala bourbon, we can't stop them from doing that, but we're not going to import it, right? Bourbon has to be 51% corn or above in its mash bill. It's got to be distilled in the United States. And right here, well, if you go online and start researching this stuff, a lot of people get this wrong. I saw numerous websites that said bourbon must be made in Kentucky. No, it does not have to be made in Kentucky. That's kind of where it originated, we think. But going back to Elijah Craig, and that's why apparently June 14th is National Bourbon Day, as they say that's when Elijah Craig discovered bourbon. So I don't know if that's when he put the whiskey in the charred oak barrels, or that's when he pulled it out and tasted it. I don't know. It's all legend and myth. It's not fact-based necessarily. Well, legends frequently are based on some facts. But there's all kinds of people who were experimenting with it, and who knows? Maybe it was Elijah Craig. What I could not find out, though, is which organization said we're going to start celebrating National Bourbon Day on June 14th. I could not find that in my research anywhere. And I did a lot of reading, a lot of digging on the internet, as well as the library here. So I don't know. Maybe if you know, you could tell me, right? But bourbon's got to be 51% corn. It's got to be distilled in the United States, new oak charred barrels. It's got to have a proof of at least 80% or greater. And there's some other technical qualifications about, the proof of the stuff you put into the barrel and whatnot. So, there's some technical aspects there to it. But nonetheless, we are going to celebrate National Bourbon Day today, by drinking and reviewing Eagle Rare. This is a quintessential American bourbon right here. Here lately, I've not taken the time to do many straight up single brand reviews of the various whiskeys I have. I've been doing a lot of the rye competition, right? But tonight, as celebrate National Bourbon Day, this bottle was gifted to me by David in Virginia. David, you know who you are. And so we thank you for that. When David was here, he and I did a comparison. We opened Eagle Rare, and then we had the Buffalo Trace bottle, and we compared. We could tell that they were related, certainly the same mash bill. But boy, that Eagle Rare, the 10-year thing, that really helped it stand out above Buffalo Trace. So Buffalo Trace is great. They're both 90 proof, but that extra few years in the wood really makes Eagle Rare stand out. But we didn't record all that on the film series here. Eagle Rare is one of those whiskeys that's just plain hard to acquire here in Fort Worth. If you're not on a store list, or if you don't know somebody, or if you're just not plain lucky, and you're at the right place at the right time, you're never going to see it in the wild. Just this last weekend, Goody Goody here in Fort Worth had some, and I didn't find out about it until, like 5 days later or something, 4 days later. And I went there, and they had nothing. All their allocated stuff went in one day, and that was Saturday. So to cap this off, score, I gave this an 84 and my letter grade was an A minus. Now you're thinking, how did she give an 84 to Eagle Rare? How's it an A minus? Well, we'll get to the details. My recommendation, if you enjoy bourbon, never pass up a chance to try or buy Eagle Rare. This is some of the finest bourbon out there. It's got a rich taste, a mouthfeel. It's got an impeccable heritage. It is a bit on the sweet side of the bourbon range, and that's where my problem is. If you've got a sweet tooth, this may be just right. But for me, I do prefer that higher rye mash bill that you get in Blanton's. So, and also another thing, a caution: if you have been spoiled, as I have, by Texas whiskeys, then this quintessential Kentucky whiskey may be just a tad bit underwhelming. Uh, so there you go. A little bit too sweet, and it's not got the Texas funk, so that caused me to score it the way I did. So here are the details. History: located in Frankfort, Kentucky, in Franklin County, or Frankfort, Kentucky, in Franklin County, near where the Buffalo crossed the Kentucky River, hence the name, Buffalo Trace Distillery. This distillery has been in action since 1805 in one version or another. It has had several names over its 200-year history: Old Fire Copper Distillery, George T. Stagg Distillery, and then in 1999, Sazerac named it Buffalo Trace Distillery. Sazerac bought it in 1992. They own the Eagle Rare brand. Blanton's is owned by the Japanese company Aji, I don't know if it's Age or Agi or Aji International. It looks like Age, but if it's Japanese, I know it can't be that. Eagle Rare brand started off in 1975 under the Seagram Corporation, really, at Old Prentice Distillery. It was acquired by Sazerac in 1989, and in 1992, Sazerac moved the brand to their George T. Stagg Distillery. So for history, it gets 5 out of 5 points. Bottle, label, and marketing. This tall, skinny style bottle is not my favorite kind of bottle, but the label makes up for it with its simplicity and class. Silver or light gray printed on the bottle so that the dark whiskey serves as the background for the label. Notice the 6 stars above the E here, and the beautiful bald eagle down here. Hold this up enough. There we go. That beautiful bald eagle. And then the bold 10-year age statement placed there above the eagle. Fine patriotic statement on the back. You know, I call it a hoo-ha statement, but it's well written. All this makes this bottle a classic. Now, I've never seen any advertising for this brand. It really sells itself throughout the whiskey community by word of mouth primarily. Testimony of its greatness. And then there's countless reviews out there, both written and video. Its semi-scarcity makes it a coveted icon of whiskey lovers around the world. The Buffalo Trace website was very helpful, particularly in detailing their history and their brands. So for bottle, label, and marketing, 5 out of 5 points. Composition. Eagle Rare shares the #1 mash bill with its younger brother, Buffalo Trace. This mash bill is the low rye recipe, and lower rye usually means bourbon is sweeter, less spicy. That is the case here. For me to explain what my palate tells me, I would say the Eagle Rare and Buffalo Trace are the tenors in the choir, while Blanton's is the baritone or even bass. The bottle says it's aged 10 years, but others will say that some of the bourbon in there is older. They do keep their mash bills a secret, so that protects their product, but it gives us less clarity. When you're the big boy on the block, you can do that. Some smaller distilleries and brands are putting their mash bill on the bottle or on the website. So for composition, 13 out of 15 points. Appearance. This is fairly dark, approaching some things that you would find in Texas, I think. But so this is probably a 3 on my scale of the appearance of whiskey, I tend to like darker whiskeys, and some Texas whiskeys are notably very dark. So 3 points for appearance. Nose. Immediately, I get some sweetness, caramel, maybe a hint of maple and orange peel. So usually I can't smell much on bourbons. My nose just is totally inadequate. The fact that I can smell anything here is amazing. And when I smell is good. The citrus orange smell, that's really quite a surprise. So 9 out of 10 on the nose. That's a rare score for me. Taste. Some caramel, maybe some toast, a touch of leather and tobacco, some little bit of wood, the citrus flavor, the orange peel, that kind of comes through. It is very sweet. I can taste the similarity to Buffalo Trace, but it's clearly more rich. Sweetness really hits at mid palate and then all the way to the finish. So with Buffalo Trace, I'm kind of across the line in the sweetness from my palate. But here with the Eagle Rare, it comes up against the line without crossing over. I think that's due to the age. So this is very drinkable. But again, in the end, I am so used to Texas whiskeys that this lacks a bit. I mean, the Texas funk has kind of ruined my palate to where normal drinks I'm kind of like disappointed in. I don't know. But I'll tell this. If I had this Eagle Rare and one of my Texas bourbons, and I'm doing them side by side for 5 nights, I would probably choose the Texas bourbon 4 out of 5 times. And Eagle Rare only once. That's how much the Texas funk has affected me. So but that's not a knock on Eagle Rare. I can tell you that this is a wonderful bourbon, but I've just been ruined by Texas whiskey. So scoring the taste here, I'm going to give it a 22 out of 25, and that's still reasonably high. If I was offered this, I would never turn it down. I mean, I would go, oh yeah, Eagle Rare, great. So this is a fantastic bourbon. 22 out of 25. The mouthfeel, the burn, and the finish. Here, that 10-year statement, age statement there really helps. The mouthfeel is noticeable. It's full-bodied, kind of creamy. The burn is appropriate for a 90 proof, perhaps even a bit milder. So this is a very smooth whiskey. Now, I tend to like harsher whiskeys. I like the burn. So for me, again, I'm really preferring something a bit stronger for 90 proof. But there are some harsh ones out there that aren't very good. So this is very smooth, very drinkable, good mouth feel. The finish, I think, is where it falls down some. The finish is a little bit weak. The flavors dissipate pretty quickly. So mid to short range there on the finish. So for mouthfeel, burn, and finish, 12 of 15. Now, I've got this category that I judge saying neat or mixer. Now, this is obviously preferred neat for me. But would it serve as a mixer? I think so, since A, it's not terribly expensive. This can be had in Fort Worth for around $40. You know, 42, $43, somewhere in there. B, at 90 proof, it's strong enough to where it's going to stand up in a cocktail. I think its sweetness, its flavor would stand up. So this, I would not hesitate to use it as a mixer if you want a nice cocktail. But other people, I mean, I prefer my drinks neat, especially something like nicer like this. I'm gonna want it neat, but if it would work as a mixer. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 for need or mixer. Price and availability and value. The only site in Fort Worth that actually had it listed on their website, I checked Total Wine, Goody Goody, and Specs. Total Wine had it listed for $42.99, but unavailable. Goody Goody was about that, but it's not on their website, but it shows up there once a year, I think, once or twice a year. And they were just sold out. So 40 between 40 and 45 is normal for this whiskey here in Fort Worth. So that's a good price for a 10-year bourbon for something as rare as Eagle Rare. Yeah, absolutely. So its value is great. I think that for the product you get and the price you pay. Availability, though, ugh, that's where it hits. So, great price, great value, but availability, man, I can't just walk into a liquor store and find this. So, if I'm not in the right place at the right time, and why Goody Goody didn't call me, I think Goody Goody changed their policy. I'm in their bottle club. They used to call me and say, hey, we've got this, this, and this listed. I mean, man, I got an Elmer T. Lee that way. I've got a few other things from Goody Goody, E.H. Taylor, because they called me and told me they were, and then you can reserve it. And I show up and I get it. But this last weekend, first come, first serve. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's just a change in policy or what, but so availability really scores down on this. So only 6 out of 10 points. Now, I have this last category, bonus. And this is totally subjective, but I'm awarding it 4 bonus points because what the heck? This is Eagle Rare. Okay? This is a highly sought after bourbon. A friend gave it to me. I mean, this is fantastic. So 4 points. But total score only came up to 84. And that's kind of mid-range for me, actually. So 84 is not a bad score. It's mid-range score. A little bit high, mid-range to high, a little bit high. Grade, letter grade A minus. That focuses on the tasting experience, the mouthfeel, all of that. And yeah, it's outside of or at the edge of my wheelhouse for sweetness, but I can tell quality. This is high quality. My recommendation, again, if you enjoy bourbon, never pass up a chance to try or buy Eagle Rare. This is some of the finest bourbon in America. It's got a rich taste, a rich mouthfeel, impeccable heritage. It's a bit on the sweet side of the bourbon range, so if you've got that sweet tooth, this would fit it nicely. But a caution, again, if you've been spoiled by Texas whiskeys like I have, it's going to be a little bit underwhelming for all the hype around it. Now, on a side note, I did order this book, and it came in today. So it's about the history of Buffalo Trace, the distillery, and the whiskey. And so I've not read this yet, but this will help me research my whiskeys. And obviously you can look around on the videos and see I'm a book guy. So there you go. And it's National Bourbon Day as well as the birthday of the United States Army, and it's Flag Day, and it's Friday. I haven't had a rye today, but maybe I'll end the evening with a rye. Well, this is Stab the Dragon out here.